Mic'd Up Podcast, hosted by Dr. Mike Miller and Coby Duran of Central Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Texas, is a series of conversations about issues that matter. For people who have real questions and doubts, it covers topics of faith, theology, and philosophy in ways that are easy to understand. Ultimately, Mic'd Up is a podcast with a couple of guys having conversations about conversations you are having. Mic'd Up is produced by Al Lambert Jr. at Mic'd Up Studios in Jacksonville, Texas.
Oh, if it was that simple.
Halloween Day.
Reformation Day. Reformation Day.
Check. Is this on? Is this on?
Al, can you hear me?
We got to talk about something.
Do we?
Since
Wait, are we getting into it yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Well, we might. Because this is tough for me.
All right.
Since our last podcast.
Man, that's been a while.
And it's been, we probably had a release about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we probably had our
It's
last
probably been about 4 weeks.
record, 4 or 5 weeks ago. I have been an unwavering Dallas Cowboys fan for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm still a Dallas Cowboys fan. I want to be very clear about this.
Yeah.
But man, I have wavered some in the last 2 weeks. It has been hard for me to be.
Can I just tell
faithful.
you that if somehow somebody had the authority to fire Jerry Jones,
He listens to the podcast. Let's talk to him for a second. He listens.
Jerry,
J-Dog.
I know you don't like anybody asking you questions.
Oh my God!
You know everything there is to know, which is why your team is undefeated right now.
Did you hear that
Yes,
exchange?
this
Oh, it was
exchange with
so
the radio
bad.
guys. It was so bad. But can I tell you? So I'm not leaving the Cowboys.
No.
But in addition to the Cowboys, have you been watching the Houston Texans?
No, I have not. And I'm going to tell you I've got 2 teams right now.
Okay.
That
Who's your other?
do what?
You got 2 teams.
So here's the deal. It's clear that the Cowboys will not be in the playoffs at this point in time.
Yeah.
In fact, they might be so bad by the end of the year that the NFL tries
But
to
at
make
least
them.
they're paying the quarterback $240 million.
Yeah, of course. Oh, daiquiri. So I've been receiving bids for. I'm a very faithful football fan.
Yeah.
You want me to be on your team because I talk a lot of trash, and I don't like. I'm not always right, but I ain't backing down. All right, so I've been receiving bids for teams that want me. I got 2 teams right now that I'm kind of looking at come playoff time.
Okay.
All right, one of them is the Detroit Lions.
Why?
Man, they got it. Oh, Dan. What's his name? Dan. Oh my gosh,
I don't know. I don't keep up with the Lions.
his coach. He was the former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Dan. Good grief, Coby. I cannot think. He's just an old school raw bone dude.
He's their coach now?
Yeah, he's their
Okay.
coach. And then the second one. This is going to be a strange one. The Minnesota Vikings.
That is strange.
So
I don't think you know how cold it is in Minnesota.
I'm gonna let you know a little insider information here.
Okay.
Okay. Our good friend Randy McCowan,
Yeah.
part of the McCowan trio of elite quarterbacks. He hit me up, or I can't remember. We were talking sometime before the football season started, and we were talking about like fantasy football. He's like, "Dude, you got to get Sam Darnold on your team." I'm like, "Why do you got to get Sam Darnold?" Sam Darnold is the. Did your watch just talk to you?
Yes, it did. It told me what time it is.
Wow.
I think it's because you're going on and on and on. Hey, look
You
at
can
the
always
time we
edit
got.
this out, Al. Golly. So Sam Darnold, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Sure.
Really struggled. But Josh McCown, Randy's brother, is Sam Darnold's coach. He's the quarterback coach for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh,
now.
I didn't know that.
And he told Randy before the season started, he's like, "Hey, you just need to know Minnesota's going to be for real this year on offense." And so far, they have been outstanding. So I'm rooting for an underdog story there.
You know, the Texans, ever since their inception, they've had a hard time just getting any traction. But
Yeah.
This quarterback, C.J. Stroud,
I like him.
man.
I wish he was a Cowboy.
And they're playing tonight. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're
The
listening to
Jets.
this, we're recording on a Thursday.
They're playing the Jets,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the Jets are bad right now. But
The Jets are very bad right now.
But he's a lot of fun to watch. He's a scrambler, and he's tough, and he's got poise in the pocket. And so it's a lot of fun. But before we leave sports, did you watch any of the World Series?
No.
So
I watch real sports.
Well,
Is it silence is affirmation?
I
Right?
just died a little bit inside.
Is silence affirmation on this show? Because all I heard was silence.
Affirmation that you are probably not even truly American? Yes.
Hey, how much American as they come?
Not if you don't love baseball. You probably hate apple pie.
You take that back. Okay, what pie have you ever seen me not love? I mean,
How can you not love baseball? Listen, man, last night, I'm not a Dodgers fan or a
Yeah.
Yankees fan. In fact, I'm the opposite of a Yankees fan. But World Series is baseball as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And so last night, I got home from church, I turned it on. Dodgers are up 3-1. And, they got thumped pretty hard in Game 4. And, they win the first 3. They get thumped hard in Game 4. So I turned it on last night when I get home, and they're just starting the 5th inning, and the Dodgers are down 5-0.
Okay.
And the Yankees just start committing errors. There's a little line drive out to center field, and Aaron Judge, who's one of the best baseball players alive.
Is he a pitcher or is he? Or
He's an outfielder.
He's an outfielder. Okay.
And he just missed it. He hit his glove and bounced off. And then there's another error right after that, and then they just had this series of, and man, into the 5th, it's 5-5.
Really?
Yeah, and the Dodgers
What
won.
game is this? Game 5, 6?
This was Game 5,
Game
and so
5.
they clinched the World Series last night by winning 7-6, and it's the biggest comeback ever to clinch the World Series.
Wow.
And man, it was just an exciting game.
Who does I'm probably going to get his name wrong. Otani?
Shohei Ohtani plays for the Dodgers, and he's.
Oh, he plays for the Dodgers?
Yeah, and he's probably the most exciting player in baseball. This
people saying that
guy
he's like maybe the greatest baseball player ever? Or
he's the
something like
Tiger
that?
Woods of baseball. This guy, he's just a freak of nature. He's a pitcher and an outfielder and a hitter, and you just never, ever see that. And he really did not bat well during the World Series. No, he just didn't. And, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Like that, yeah.
They do, but, he's still a valuable member of the team, and everybody loves him, and he's just he's just truly remarkable.
Did you know Micah played with him in Japan?
He's too young for that.
Yeah, I know. He was like a 16, 17-year-old kid and played professional.
How old is he now? He looks like he's 20.
I
guess he's older than that.
Micah
Wow.
retired 10 years ago.
I didn't know. We're talking about Micah Hoffpower, who's
Former Cub.
former Chicago Cub,
Yeah.
deacon in our church.
Deacon in our
just
church,
a really
good dude.
cool guy.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
He lives across the street from me. I don't need any bad blood there.
We're not gonna.
He also carries my insurance.
We're not gonna compliment Micah.
I like
Are you ready to get going?
I think it's time. It's probably past time. Siri's even telling me, or my watch is telling me, hey, hurry up.
It's time to move on.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, this is the Mic'd Up Podcast, where we have the conversations
About the conversations you are having.
Indeed.
Indeed. So we have one today?
I have a conversation today.
Okay.
I think that the initial question, I've got an initial question. We might have an entire episode off of the initial question.
Okay.
If we don't, I've got 4 or 5 follow-ups
Okay.
because they're all in the same vein. Today is October 31st, 2024, year of our Lord.
Yeah.
Commonly known as Halloween
Reformation Day.
to some, for
me.
sure.
Yes.
I don't even know. Is Halloween celebrated outside of America? I know very little about Halloween.
I don't know anything about how. I'm not. By the way, I'm not on the anti-Halloween bandwagon or anything. But it's.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about
care
today.
about
But we're not just going to talk about Halloween. I got a couple other things I want to throw out.
By the way, I would say Halloween is the second largest holiday in the New Orleans area. We lived in New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, Mardi Gras would be the first, then comes Halloween. You can't believe, I mean, whole blocks get together and decorate the whole street for Halloween. People, their houses, their cars. I've never seen anything like it.
What?
And of course, fireworks.
On Halloween?
Fireworks for anything. Am I right, Al?
Our Cajun friend is over there. Like, yeah. Why is Halloween such a big deal?
I don't know. But it's big, big deal.
So I was listening. I was on Facebook the other day, and this guy, and he is getting, he's getting some people pushed back to him, for sure. Some like Christian apologists. In fact, the video I originally saw, the Christian apologist, they call him, I can't remember what his name is, but he's the Red Pen Logic guy. Have you ever seen him?
I don't know.
Solid dude. I like a lot of the stuff that he does. He just released a book about deconstruction. It was well done. But anyways, he was showing a video of this other Christian who was talking about Halloween, and apparently he was responding to it because this video has gone viral. It's essentially this young Christian guy. I have no idea who this guy is.
Okay.
And he's saying, like, hey, look, if you celebrate Halloween, it does not matter if you are innocent in the approach. It doesn't matter if your daughter just, I have 3 daughters. If your daughter's just really wanting to dress up as Elsa, he's saying you are opening yourself up to demonic influence because the roots of Halloween are demonic, pagan, things of that nature. And because the roots are bad, anybody who participates in it, regardless of reason, is opening themselves up to demonic influence, oppression. He was kind of all over the place. I mean, he was, and even like went on to say that, like, he's like, think about it. When you...
Is this the Red Pen apologist?
No. So the Red Pen apologist was trying to like push back against this. But like this guy was saying, because I know your position on this, but I wanted you to kind of address it too. But even one of the other things that this guy was saying was like, think about the what you do on Halloween. You dress up, you take on someone else's identity. It's evil. He's just like going all in on this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I know. I mean, the video wouldn't have gone viral if it hadn't struck a chord with somebody. Right. So I guess I don't even know how to phrase this in a question. So I guess like maybe the best way would be, how would you respond to somebody who's saying, hey, if you're a Christian, you cannot participate in anything Halloween related whatsoever?
I would say I disagree, but that I respect your perspective on this. I'm sympathetic to it. We had a while where we didn't let our kids do any Halloween stuff just because we didn't. And, it wasn't like we were on a bandwagon about it. We just said we're not going to participate in it, and it had to do with the roots. And I came off of that simply because as I got to thinking about it, I thought we are doing. I'm looking at this whole like the meat sacrifice to idols.
What I was just looking that up. Is that Romans 11?
Well, it's Romans 11. There's also Paul talks about it in Corinthians. I think it's in 1 Corinthians. And why am I looking at my phone when I've got something bigger here? And so, we know, like what he says, we know that idols are nothing.
Yeah. I guess that's Romans 14, where he starts talking about don't pass judgment on one another. And it starts off, Romans 14:1 says, as for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. Was that the passage you were referencing, or?
That's one of them.
Okay. Other one's in Corinthians?
Let's see. Where was that, Romans 14?
That was Romans 14. Once you get past Romans 9, I get so confused. I start mixing things up.
All right, so where was that in Romans 14?
Starting like in verse 1.
Okay.
And then I think it kind of runs from like verse 1 to at least through verse 4. But it even starts talking about like in verse 5, talking about one person esteems one day as better than another. So 1
Corinthians 8 also talks about this. And so he's talking about, I was searching for meat sacrificed to idols, and it's food offered to idols in the ESV.
Okay.
So he says, we know, he goes in, if anyone imagines he knows something he doesn't know, God loves, and it's kind of to me, it's almost like a convoluted argument. I'm not critiquing God's word, but it's kind of hard to follow is what I would say.
Yeah, it's a hard.
He says, therefore, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence and that there is no God but one. For although there may be so-called gods in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there's one God, the Father, through whom all things are and through whom we exist. However, not all possess this knowledge. But some, through former association with idols, eat food as really offered to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Food will not commend us to God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do. So, and he goes on about, we hear about stumbling blocks, and he says, look, I'm free to do whatever I want, but if my freedom offends somebody else, I'm the weaker brother, I'm not going to do it. So, I see the same perspective here. Is so the meat sacrificed to idols, some people believed you were participating in idol worship if you ate that meat.
Yeah.
And Paul said, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. It's just meat to me.
Yeah.
And so he says, but if you, in your conscience, because you have participated in that before, and if so, since you used to worship idols and eat that meat as part of that, then you shouldn't do it if this is still bothering your conscience. He says, but it's not bothering my conscience. It's just meat. But if it's going to bother you for me to eat meat, I won't eat it.
Yeah.
And so my take is, if maybe you've got a background in the occult or something like that, and apparently Halloween is like a high holy day, like in witchcraft and stuff like that. I really don't know a lot about that. But if participating in any kind of Halloween festivities has that connection with you, then that's a problem. That's never been a connection to me, so it doesn't have that connection. Dressing up in a costume is not assuming someone's identity. For example, let's say I dress up as a gorilla. I'm not even pretending to be a gorilla, right? Or if a dinosaur, or, whatever. I don't think I'm that. So, and I'm not trying to pass myself. I'm not going out there thinking, hey, people are going to think I'm
What would you say about like a kid, though, who's like really immersed into the character?
I'm okay with pretending.
Yeah. I can remember one time, I can't remember who she was dressed up as, maybe like a Power Ranger, but one of my kids, my middle child, she was dressed up, and I was like, hey, who is that? And she took her mask off. She's like, Dad, it's me, Avery, and so in that moment, she was like, and and I was kind of like feeding that, I guess. So, but you would say that that's fine.
We used to play cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers and army and all kinds of stuff, and we were pretending to be stuff. I didn't really think I was in the army, or that I was an Indian or a cowboy, or that I was shooting real bullets. It was pretend. And I don't know, I think pretend is actually healthy for kids.
Yeah.
I think it's fun, and I think we couch it like that. And so to me, it's just not that big of a deal. In fact, I feel the same way about Santa Claus. We don't do Santa Claus in our house.
Yeah. We don't either, but we don't do it for different reasons.
Yeah, we don't do it for different reasons. I don't think it's pagan or occult or anything. But what we've chosen is, at Christmas time, if we're going to celebrate the birth of Jesus, we want to keep the focus on him.
Yeah.
You want to do Santa Claus, I don't care. I don't think you're being irreligious or anything like that. And I kind of, for a while, I kind of wrestled with, well, if we do Santa Claus, and they're going to go, well, you lied to me about Santa Claus, you lied to me about all this stuff, are you also lying about Jesus? And I think it's pretty easy to separate. So we just told our kids, like watching movies or anything else, pretending is okay, as long as you're pretending. If you're pretending to be a cartoon character, you're not really that character, you're pretending. Right. And so it's okay. So when it comes to the Halloween, I don't think that, if you can show me, I think if you could show me that people in the occult like dress up as Power Rangers and go trick-or-treating, then I would go, yeah, we're not going to do that. This is sort of like not participating in the pagan practices of the people around you when they went into the promised land. But this is not something we see pagans doing. Halloween is not. Now, if you want me to come and join your witch coven and cast spells and do incantations and stuff, no.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
So let me ask you this, and this kind of goes back to the passage, because this has always been a tough passage for me, the 1 Corinthians chapter 8.
Okay.
Because and I'll get to like the tough part of it. But like actually, as you were just explaining, I was like, oh wow, that makes so much more sense now. Would you say that for the person, like in this situation that Paul is talking to, who was a worshiper of some idol, do you think that Paul is telling that person, hey, because this is in your past, you don't need to do this going forward, or do you think he's just saying, hey, like no, it's okay, like if you can handle it, it's okay.
That's exactly what I think he's saying.
And
let me give you one example. I'm not into like screamo metal.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not my music. But there are some screamo metal bands out there that just do Christian music. In fact, there's a band called Becoming the Archetype, and I've heard their version of How Great Thou Art. Not my cup of tea. But here's the thing. I've got friends that like metal. They don't like the stuff with demonic lyrics or anything like that. But I've got I had a PhD student once, and he was a meth addict, and he was in a metal band, and he said, I can't listen to that music. Because it takes my mind to places I don't want my mind to go.
Yeah.
For him, it would be a sin to listen to that music.
Because of what it does to his mind.
If I listen to it, it's not a sin. I don't care for it. But like if you like it, there's nothing inherently sinful in a style of music. By the way, I know people who would disagree with me. I mean, I know people like, hey, if it's got drums in it, it's of the devil. I mean, I literally know people who will say that. Maybe we can talk about that kind of thing on another episode. But so what is going on in your heart? And so the thing is, if I'm going to have, go back to Paul's day and we're going to have a party and the meat came from they bought it from the pagan temple. It was their leftover meat from the idols and they're going to serve it. Oh, this guy used to worship. And you can tell, hey, this is a problem for me. Mm-hmm. Well, man, we're not having meat tonight.
Yeah.
This is the only meat we have. We're not having meat.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul's saying. I'm going to forgo my right. It doesn't bother my conscience, but if it's going to be a problem for him, I'm not going to do it. Now, you can take it to the extreme and say, well, if there's anybody that you ever might encounter that it's going to be a problem, you shouldn't do it. I don't think that's what's going here. He's talking about your brother. He's talking about, I think, the people in your community. And, one way we apply that, like I apply it, is with alcohol. I'm a non-drinker. For one thing, I don't care to be intoxicated or anything like that. But one of the primary reasons I don't drink is because as a Baptist pastor, it would be scandalous.
Yeah.
And somebody go, well, it shouldn't be. Okay. But it shouldn't be a problem to eat that meat that's sacrificed. Yeah. But for some people it is. So if that's an issue, I'm not going to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
It's no big. Paul says, I'll never eat meat again.
I was having a conversation with like a couple of college students the other day who were just talking about tattoos.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, Coby, would you ever get a tattoo? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I don't mind if you do. I'm not. Right. They're like, well, why wouldn't you? I was like, because there's going to be some people that shut me out just because I have a tattoo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now, do I think that those people are right in their assessment?
And it's because of your position.
It's because of my position, right. Yeah. I think that those people would be wrong in doing that, but it's like, well, why?
Now, what's funny is if you had become a pastor and you already had them, it wouldn't be a big deal.
It wouldn't be a big deal.
But if you suddenly started getting them, for some people it probably would be an issue.
It would be a thing.
And so you have to look at that. And so I know we've kind of gotten off topic here.
Well, so I mean, there's even like a couple more things with this that, like, I mean, I'm kind of thinking in real time because I wasn't really prepared for this particular passage. Today, Halloween, but also Reformation Day. So like one of the primary reformers, the original reformer, Martin Luther, he was known for having a guilty conscience. And the best that we can tell from his writings, he obviously sinned. Like, he was obviously a sinner.
Yeah.
But it seems like the majority of the things that he was confessing, because he obviously coming from that Catholic background, he would spend time in the confessional booth. It seemed like a lot of the things that he was confessing, like the people that he was confessing to were just like, dude, you're not, like, this isn't really sin.
Yeah.
Like you need to chill out.
Yeah.
Like you're okay here. But he just had such a guilty conscience. Do you think that it's possible for somebody? Do you think that Paul could be saying, "Hey, you may not be sinning here by eating this meat, but why have the guilty conscience? It may not necessarily be a sin, but like, why would you want to walk around with a conscience there that is going to be heavy when you could have a clear conscience and just not do it?"
But I think also too, if it could even be that if you do this, it's bringing temptations back into your life. That.
And I think that would be sinful if, like, you're willingly trying to open the door
Here,
to
this
temptation.
pagan temple, they had cult prostitutes and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
And when this food's set before you, your mind is going there.
Yeah.
Well, let's get rid of it.
So that would be.
So I think there could be a lot of things at play there.
So that would be like a scenario where, like, the bringing the food in at the very least is opening the door to sin, if not sinful in itself.
Yeah.
But then you have this other scenario where it's like, no, it's not sinful, but this person is just weak. Like, their mind cannot handle.
And he talks about the weaker brother. You got to be sensitive to the weaker brother.
I'm telling you right now, I would fall in that category. Yeah. Like, if Paul would have been talking to me right there.
Okay.
Just because, like, that's just how my mind is wired. Like, I have a very guilty conscience.
Yeah.
I'm always, like, overthinking things. And, like, when I read about Martin Luther, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, we had the same thing going on. And so, like, I could see where, like, if I was coming from this pagan background and somebody put meat in front of me, I could see for me, I'm just trying to be, have an imagination here, where it wouldn't necessarily take my mind to the sinful practices, but I would just be like, oh gosh.
Oh my gosh, should I be doing this?
I don't know if I should do it. Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
And so I think Paul's going, then just don't do it.
Yeah.
If it's causing you conflict,
then just be done with it.
Yeah, why?
That's a good word.
Why deal with it? And so, but I'm a guy like I used to. Again, I was never, even when I drank, I was almost always a designated driver. But I used to hang out in bars and stuff like that with friends. I mean, we weren't going into seedy places, but pub and grills and stuff.
Wait,
like
hold
that.
on. What's a seedy place?
Seedy, SEEDY.
I've never heard of that.
That'd be like a. What's another word I would use for that? Like a
sketchy.
Sketchy. I wasn't going in sketchy places, and so
seedy. I'm never going to use sketchy again.
Yeah, but and so when I came out of that life, like I could walk into a place like that today, and it just wouldn't affect me.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't be a problem for me because I don't long for that life. I'm not tempted. It doesn't do anything to my conscience.
So would you tell you and pretend I'm Pastor Joe? I don't know. I'm just making up a name here.
All right.
Pastor Joe, I am telling my congregation, hey, you are sinful if you're participating in Halloween.
Yeah.
You, Mike, have the opportunity to sit down with me, Pastor Joe, and just have a conversation, a candid conversation. What are you telling that guy?
I'm going to say, Pastor, I really don't think that because my kids dressed up as Power Rangers that my family is sinning and we're not participating in any kind of pagan practices. And I respect your convictions on the matter, but I think you're placing an unbiblical conviction on me.
Yeah.
And, he may bring out passages about, have nothing to do with the fruitful deeds of darkness. Well, I'm not. I mean, there is nothing that we, let's say this is tomorrow, the day after Halloween. There is nothing we did last night that has anything to do with any pagan practices.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't invoke any kind of magic. There were no kind of false gods. There was no burning of incense. There was nothing, no sacrifices, nothing. I let my kids dress up as Power Rangers. They got candy.
Yeah. I mean, for my three girls, like the only thing that they're thinking about when it comes this time of year is like candy.
And if he says, well, that's the root of it. So here's another thing I would say is, so in the law, there were some laws that are kind of weird to us because, but in their context,
this is good.
They were practices of the pagans. What are some of those?
Yeah, so like the passing your child through the fires of Molech and stuff like that. You're talking about?
Yeah, but I'm talking about just some of the, I mean, we can see why, you shouldn't sacrifice your children, but I'm talking about some of the just, like don't wear fabric made of.
Oh yeah, like two tones of fabric or whatever.
Don't wear clothes made of two different kinds of fabric.
Yeah.
Well, why? What?
To separate yourself.
Yeah, you separate yourself. Okay, I'm not sure what this is made of, but I know that I wear maybe a cotton poly blend or something like that. Well, you could argue, that has its roots in paganism. Well, I never thought of that until you mentioned it. So I'm not participating in paganism.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly. That's such a good word because I just got through with Leviticus in my quiet time this morning.
Yeah.
So many of those laws are in response.
Exactly.
It's kind of like the early church councils. Yeah. It's like these things are in response to these things that other people are doing.
The tattoos.
Oh, yeah,
That was
tattoos,
one
yeah.
of those things. Why? That's something the pagans did. You're supposed to look different than them. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, are we going to tell people you can't get a tattoo today because what are we talking, 6,000 years ago? Or, well, actually, that would be,
About 4 or 5.
3,400 years ago. That had its roots in paganism. Well, okay.
You couldn't trim your beard.
There you go. The trimming
yeah.
of the beard, that had its roots in paganism. Oh man, so if I shave, since it had its roots in paganism, I see the Halloween thing the same way.
Yeah.
So doing anything for fun on Halloween, the Halloween concept itself has its roots in paganism. Okay, but I'm not doing that.
So here's another one that made the rounds here recently. This was I think like an Eastern Orthodox priest that was talking about this. Now, I just wondering if you kind of putting this in the same category where he basically came out. I'm sorry. I think he was only clarifying what the Eastern Orthodox Church did back in 2020. I may have some of my facts wrong, but I know that the Orthodox Church essentially came out and said, yoga is evil, no Christian should participate.
Yeah.
How do you think
I know
that
some
yoga...
pastors that are like,
Anti-yoga?
oh my goodness, it is demonic. And so what is yoga? Well, if you're going to participate in, I forget some of the Eastern terms, but like this Eastern, whatever yoga, where you're trying to align your soul with whatever, then yeah. But if you're doing some stretching and balancing exercises,
yeah,
I just got to tell you, and there's no spiritual anything, because we know that those exercises are incredibly good for your core and for your balance. And I mean, they're really healthy for you.
That's why I don't do them.
So, well, I don't do them because I'm so uncoordinated and I have the balance. And so, but my wife has done yoga lots of times. And so I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, well, what if some pagans and something that they were doing in incantations or something actually accidentally stumbled on something that has medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
That becomes a modern medicinal practice. So we say we can't use that.
Well, hey, one of the things we've talked about a lot in recent months is we tried to navigate some of these things. We have a counseling center opening up offices in our building.
Yeah.
And we're excited about that. But we do have to acknowledge that modern psychology, this Freudian modern psychology, it does have roots in the secular. But I think kind of what you're saying there, I think they kind of stumbled onto some truth.
Yeah. So my thing is that God is the source of all truth.
Right.
Wherever it comes from.
Right.
And so if these pagans got onto some stretches and balancing that are good, well, great. Can we take the good and throw out the bad?
Yeah.
And so that's my take on that. And we're going to reject the Freudian ideas and the postmodernism in counseling, but we want to help people if there's some good analytical tools out there that can help help people figure out what's going on with them and deal with their trauma. Then why not? Why wouldn't we do that? I mean, we don't insist. If the doctor prescribes me a medicine, I don't go, okay, did a Christian come up with this? Oh, it was invented by an atheist. It was invented by a Buddhist.
I'm out.
I'm out. We don't do that.
Right.
And so I think we need to, and again, this is like with music. I actually, again, early in my Christian life, I was like, man, I think we should only listen to Christian music. And, there's some really good
there's some great artists out there.
Music. And I'm even thinking have you ever been to the symphony?
No, I have not been to the symphony.
But so I don't listen to that music in my car, but I love to go. It's spellbinding. And music was invented by God. Now, you can take the things God invents and use them for evil or use them for good.
I like how you said that music is invented by God.
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
if somebody wants to take some exercises and tie them to their paganism, I can't help them, but I'm going to take those exercises and not time to paganism. So, just because I'm listening to music that doesn't talk about Jesus doesn't mean it's not good music. In fact, to me, it's worshipful to listen to that good music. I'm sitting there going, wow. I mean, it's just it touches your soul.
Yeah.
You know, I would never listen to opera, but you ever heard an opera singer live with an orchestra? Oh man, it will move you to tears because it's beautiful, and I don't care that it doesn't have Bible lyrics in it. You know, it's good. There is a goodness in the world. There's something we call common grace, and there is natural beauty. And that tree didn't have to be planted at a churchyard for it to be a beautiful tree.
Right.
You know? And so I think what we can do in our sincere efforts to be holy, like God calls us to be, I think we can go to extremes, and in doing so, reject some of the goodness of God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good word.
Well, where's the goodness of God on Halloween? I don't know. Letting my kids I bought my grandson. I was flying somewhere, and I was in the Houston airport. That's where NASA is, and Halloween was coming up. And I went in. They got a little NASA shop there, and they had a little astronaut outfit. And I immediately texted my son and daughter-in-law, and I said, "Do you have a costume for him yet?" And they said, "No." I said, "Can I buy him one?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so I bought him this little astronaut costume.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Well, what's holy in that? What's holy in it is we got together as a family and we just had a really good time at the Central Baptist Church Fall Festival.
Yeah, 100%.
And he had a blast pretending to be an astronaut and wearing his little orange suit.
I think that, like, even as I consider tonight, we're going to go do the trick-or-treating thing. We got some folks that we're going to meet up with.
I'm going to watch the Houston Texans game.
Hey man, I told you I'm taking bids right now.
Yeah, I hear
and
you.
you want me on your team.
Let me throw a bid in for the Texans.
Okay, I got you. But yeah, I think that like we can take. I mean, heck, Christmas was something that Christians redeemed from paganism, and nobody's going. I say Christmas. The celebration of Christmas is not something that we redeem,
25th.
But December 25th is something that we redeem.
I've had people try to say Jesus was born on December 25th, but I think most scholars don't think that he was.
No, I think nearly everybody rejects that.
And so, but yeah, there's a pagan holiday. Let's take it over to celebrate the birth of Jesus so that we can get people focused on Jesus instead. Great, let's do it.
Yeah. I think that like anything that we do like that has the potential to be redeemed when our heart is right, when our conscience is not weighing heavy on us. And so,
well, we're told in Scripture, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all for the glory of God. And I'm thinking, you don't have to be quoting Scripture to do it to the glory of God. By the way, for anybody listening, I hope you know by now, we highly extol the Bible and see it as the infallible Word of God. And if you ever come to Central Baptist Church, the Bible is front and center here. So, it's not that, but I think I can glorify God spending time with my family and playing a board game with my grandkids. And it doesn't have to be a Christian monopoly,
I agree wholeheartedly. So okay, so let's try to wrap this up in a bow as best as we can. If I'm hearing you correctly, it's, hey, if this is something, if Halloween, yoga, with something like that, if that's going to be something that weighs heavy on your conscience, it's okay to refrain.
Yeah.
But don't try to make your convictions somebody else's convictions when their heart is pure in the matter.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And let's stand firm where the Bible is clear.
Yeah.
And let's show grace where it's not. And let's try to honor God in everything that we do.
I like it. Yeah. Got a shout out for us.
Oh, cool.
We are still global.
Nice.
All right. You want me to tell you the countries that we're in right now?
Yeah. Give me the analytics.
So we've actually lost a couple of countries from our listenership.
Rude.
Obviously, United States, pulling strong for
the best
us.
country.
Okay. Germany, still strong in Germany. Still got a presence in Germany there. Picked up a new country, though.
Which one?
Brazil.
I've been to Brazil a couple times.
I've never been to Brazil.
I love Brazil.
So
you know why you would love Brazil?
Why would I? Soccer.
Beef.
Oh, man, I love me. Listen, have you ever been to Texas Day, Brazil?
I have been to Texas Day.
I don't know if that's what the food tastes like there.
Isn't that where we
man.
went to that meeting out? Yeah. And they got the big grazing table.
Oh,
it's
man.
pretty great.
It's beautiful. Oh, and I'm sorry. I'll give you another country that we have picked up recently. Singapore.
Seriously?
Seriously, Singapore. So,
well, that's cool.
Brazil and Singapore,
I'm kind of
you
hoping
get some shout-outs.
like Iceland. I want Iceland. I want somebody in Iceland to listen to it. Don't ask me why. I just think it'd be cool to have a listener.
I don't even know. I mean, Iceland, that's Europe. I failed pretty much every geography test that I've ever been given.
Who does own Iceland?
That's the Vikings, right? Like that's where the Vikings come from, right? No, maybe.
I think they're Scandinavian.
If we pick up an Icelander, or maybe there's an Icelander that has been listening from America, can you please tell us?
Yeah,
are Vikings from? Are you a Viking?
And can you get somebody in Iceland to listen to at least one episode of Mic'd Up?
We're still international. Germany, Singapore, Brazil.
Nice.
Boom. So our shout out today, Brazil.
Shout out to Brazil. I have been to Rio and I've been to Manaus and I've been piranha fishing on the Amazon.
Piranha fishing.
Yeah.
And you live to tell about it.
Barely. It's pretty scary. But and then we took them all to a floating restaurant and they fried them up for us and we ate them.
You ate the piranha? Was it good?
No, they're really oily and it's not a good food fish. But I ate piranha.
You ate piranha?
I caught.
You ate piranha and the piranha didn't eat you.
That's exactly right.
I think that you've done something many people have not.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's a good wrap on this one. I appreciate the conversation. So, yeah, this episode should be dropping probably a week after Halloween.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll give you some comfort or not for next year. Who knows?
Yeah, just listen to it every week until next
Until next Halloween. Then you can be all right. All right, folks. We'll appreciate y'all for tuning in to the Mic'd Up Podcast. We'll talk to you later.